Hey guys, welcome back to Open Spaces. We are here today to recap our community series. But first of all, I just want to say hi. It's good to be back.
It's good to see you back.
In the seat.
Yeah, Jourdan's back with us, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So she's kind of taken a little hiatus from Open Spaces.
That's right. And I just want to thank everybody for your kindness. And as we've been celebrating my mom's life and remembering her and being together as a family. So just grateful for all the support, truly. But it is good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to see you back. I'm glad to do this with you. That's
Thanks.
what we wanted to do.
Is that why you wear your bright orange shirt today?
Well, let's talk about it.
Let's do.
My new spring. This is my new favorite spring color.
That is amazing.
And
I feel bad that I wore like a drab brown.
Yeah, you look like you're still in the winter or the fall.
Well, at least I'm comfortable.
Yeah, that's what matters.
But you are very springy.
But this is like very different for me to wear this color.
Do you want to unpack it?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the place to do it.
I mean, I saw this shirt. Let me just tell the listeners. I saw this shirt on the Zara website. And
oh my gosh, I bet it's going to sell out after this episode.
I tried to order it off the Zara website. And let me just tell you my dilemma. I couldn't. They were sold out. They didn't have it. They didn't have it.
I thought you were going to say because the Zara website is so user unfriendly, which is also true.
No, don't say that because we want them to sponsor. I'm sure Zara's going to sponsor.
I think there's a great chance.
But I couldn't get it off the website. And then when I went in the store, I looked over at the checkout. I was checking out. I look over. And it was as if a light from heaven was shining in this section that I saw this shirt. I went over and they had my size. And so I bought this shirt and I love this shirt.
I'm so happy for you guys. I didn't know this story.
True story though. This morning I did wear it with the tags in the back. It's a little Jeff Johnson secret.
Case.
And then I saw some friends. They hugged me and he was like, "What's this on your back?" And then I just pulled out the tag and I was like, "Well, I'm still deciding."
He found you out.
Which then his wife was like, "I love that color." And I was like, "I do too." And so I told her, I said, "Just rip it off. Rip the tag out."
We ripped the tag off. We are keeping the Zara shirt.
So there's a story behind it. But do we want to talk about my hat?
Okay. I mean, we absolutely can. Let's talk about the hat.
Well, okay. This is a guy out of New York that his company, you might think it's a sports hat. What kind of sports hat would it be?
Is.
No, it's not.
I'm pretty sure we're repping the Yankees, even though it's not exactly their logo.
Well, it's maybe like I don't see that.
Sure, you don't see sports logos.
I see Envy La Vie is this brand. This guy, one of the most awesome creative guys. I wish I knew him. But I started following him and his company, and he's doing all these like small little drops. And he did these hats. And every time I try to get him, like he posts like, "I'm going to drop a new shipment of these hats in different colors." Every time, as you know, because you live with me.
I did walk with you through this process.
You walked me through. It
was hard
every
at times.
time I tried to order when they came live. It never worked. They were always sold out within like 2 minutes. And then one day it happened.
Again, the heavens opened, a light shone down on your mailbox.
And this hat, Envy La Vie, whatever sports team you think it is, it's Envy La Vie to me.
Got it.
Anyways, enough about my outfit. Go to my Shop My. Just see what you see on Shop My.
Just see what you see. Buy what you will buy.
Buy what you want. Click on the links. Just make my dreams come true.
That's good.
We're not here to talk about my clothes, so stop talking about it.
Well,
you're always wanting to talk about my clothes.
That's true. I really, really do. But we do want to talk about our community series.
Yes, which has been way better than my clothes.
Speaking of your friends finding out your tags and your shirts.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about
community.
Last couple of weeks, we have really dove into this series, which has been, honestly, it has reminded me again how grateful I am for our community and our friends.
Yes.
And while we have, let's also talk about the fact that this is decades of us growing therapy, working out our own thing and how to like be healthy and have community, which was a journey, which it didn't start like, oh, we have all these great friends and it has been such a journey. And
that's right.
And honestly, I'm just grateful. Like, this is the thing that people are like, or how I feel about the same-sex attraction struggle. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things that people don't talk about, but then when you do, what I have found, the gift of it for me is that I feel like so many of our deep, close friendships are because it's like the byproduct of being vulnerable and sharing this thing.
Totally.
Which that has been built over time and trust and in so many ways.
But it's a great point because I think, even as we've gotten feedback from these community episodes, we've heard a lot about people that still don't feel comfortable to share their stories and people that are still very scared. And we've talked a lot about that on this podcast. And I mean, it kind of
relate to all of that.
Right.
All of it. Like, yeah.
But it speaks so much of the power of being vulnerable, which, we talk about all the time, but it has unlocked these relationships. So if that is something that your life is missing and that you are lacking or wanting, it's so scary to take that step. But maybe that is the piece that's missing of just sharing and then you being the first to go and seeing what happens afterwards. And we've also talked about this, that sometimes that does lead to mishaps and pitfalls of people not responding the way that you hope or want. But the encouragement behind that is just to keep trying and keep going for it, because you might be the key that unlocks somebody else's vulnerability and unlocks a powerful, deep friendship for years to come. So that's our hope. And that's what we have seen in our lives.
Even just kind of thinking through all these episodes that we just did, starting with first guy that I had shared with, which was Wes Martin that we had on, and he was a band member. He was the first person. Just the difference of how I shared with him, and how that felt so unnatural and was new and scary, to where where we ended up sharing with our friends, the Vogeltans and the Stanfills. There's just a really big gap there of years of growth in order to share it without any of the fear of it. Because we had already seen, when you share and when you talk about it, then you start seeing this is over time, it loses its power.
Right.
And that's that's the thing that I truly believe. It loses its power as we talk about it, which is why we want to talk about it and why we want you to talk about it. Because the enemy loves to make you feel isolated, shame, and in isolation is where the enemy works best.
Right.
And so just for us, it's truly where we've seen God do so much. But the point is that over the years, the difference of the way and the ease to which we share has really changed, all the way down to why are we sitting on a podcast? We wouldn't have thought about that 30 years ago or 20 years ago. When
I love the episode with Wes because it really does showcase how there was just some fumbling through and some figuring it out. And I wasn't even there when you shared with Wes for the first time. So I don't know that moment personally, but I can just imagine even just, I don't know, even the verbiage and how you actually articulated it.
Well, that was the weird part, because if a listener is well, how does it go when you share it first?
Yeah.
When I share with Wes, we were both trying to recount it. I was I don't remember what I said to you. I don't remember if I said, I didn't have language. And so it's is it all right to say gay or same-sex attraction? Or how do you say it? I'm I don't know.
Yeah.
And you
just
forget about it. You just say something and you're hey, this is something that's got me. It's got a hold of me. It's, this is where I'm at. That's really all I remember in that. We don't remember the exact things, but it was through all of that, now we have words around it, and we are still learning. I don't know that we're got the terminology that we would want to say. I've been,
I mean, that keeps shifting and changing too. As we keep learning,
even as people ask me on different podcasts that I'm now doing, about the terminology of gay or same-sex attraction, the versus saying that, and where I have really thought, and where, we've leaned into the same-sex attraction versus gay, just gay being more about your identity. But then I've met a friend that I just met and he is he says he's a gay celibate Christian. Yep. And so I asked him the question. I was just tell me about why you say gay. And, and his point was valid. His point was, the church has really mishandled people that struggle in this, and there's so much hurt around it that the terminology cannot become the thing. And like, so when I even asked, like, and we had a great conversation, it was not like hostile or weird, but like he was very much willing to talk about it. And I was just curious, like, I'm like, I don't hold judgment over it, what you're saying, what I'm saying. Like, it's just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And we had another conversation at the eco conference when we were after our breakout, and somebody else was explaining it too in such a kind way, but also would call himself gay, but he is married and has a family.
Yeah.
And he was helping us understand that some people that align with us spiritually and theologically would use that term more just as an adjective, like where we have kind of talked about it from like an identity standpoint.
Yes.
And I do think a lot of people do consider it an identity. And that's, we can let them share their own stories about that, but it was helpful to even hear his point. Like, gay can also just be like an adjective. Like it doesn't have to be that deep. But, and then I've heard other people talk about how it's very important to them to use that language, even from like an evangelical standpoint, because as they're talking to other people in the world who haven't met Jesus yet, it's kind of like a doorway into like relating to them. So, it's interesting as we have really learned, even in these, I would say like these past like 6 months, our eyes have been opened and our perspective has opened up wider. And I think the message behind that is like, the bottom line is like, we can't get too hung up on semantics and vocabulary, in the sense that the heart posture is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I understand from scripture.
Yeah.
Like Jesus looks at the heart.
Yeah.
And what are we trying, what's our goal? What's our aim? Is it to, and to some people, the specific words are very important, and that matters too. So, I think what we're just trying to say is like, as we even grow in our community, in the community of like the sexuality space, we're ever learning and growing and having our perspective shifting too.
It's true. But also just, going back to like gratitude towards our friendships. I think it could be, some of the feedback maybe was that, we just heard people say, like, well, it's intimidating. I don't know if I could ever have what you guys have, and that was definitely not our hope, to try to like be like, look at how great our friends are. I mean, I love our friends, but this is where we've just grown into, and how we've developed our friendships.
And it's what we want. I think that's important to say, is like, this is something we value. And so it has been important for us to develop these friendships in this way.
Yeah.
We value feeling known in certain ways and having a certain depth. And so that's our personal value. And so that comes out in the ways that our friendships are showcased, and the way we showcase them on this podcast, really. And so, I think that there's quite a variety.
And something I want to say is like, the people that we had on are people that are really close to us, and it just worked to have them on. But like, we have so many other great friends, like great friends, that people that we love, people that have walked with us and shared the journey with us. And I just want to remind people, like, we have more than,
I'm glad
we
you
have
said
some
that.
really great people, like
we
really
do.
great people.
And it takes me back to one of my closest friends in the season where we were dating and we were on and off. And she reached out after having listened to all these podcasts on the community, and she just wanted to share like her perspective, which I loved hearing. And she said something to the effect of like, as I've listened to everybody talk about how they responded when you first shared your story. And also, this is a person who, she was a roommate. She was a very close friend all through like our dating, but she did not know that you were same-sex attracted.
Yeah.
So she was walking with me very closely, but she didn't know like the big kicker at the bottom of it all. But she was incredibly supportive of me and loving and kind, and was a very safe place for me. And but what she said in this voice text, she now knows, obviously, but it was how she felt. She didn't hear like her response kind of represented, and what her reaction was she, when we finally told her, was that she just felt relief just to know and to have like kind of the full picture. It wasn't shock. It wasn't it wasn't something that was just completely outside of the realm of possibilities, but it was just more like, okay, now I understand more fully. But what I love that she also said was, I never felt like I lacked anything I needed to love you well. And that just like made me emotional to hear, because that is such a deep and true friend, where, you know, of course we get curious, and she said, you know, she was curious, but like didn't just realize that she didn't need to know all the details in order to be a good supporter of me and to love me well, which I think is just such a cool example for anybody who's aiming to be a better friend.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's amazing. And we have so many more like that, and it's been awesome just to talk about them and journey with them through all of this. People like, and then like Drew Worsham, you know, people that have like walked the road with us for so long that feel more like family than friends. And that's just so much of it is longevity and really pushing through. And there's hard moments. Like, I think we've said that on episodes, like there were hard moments with our friendships, but we kept showing up, we kept choosing it. And it mattered to us. And now we just get to reap the reward of that, which is really great people around us.
I think I want to say too, like if you're somebody who's listened to all these episodes and maybe you don't find yourself in any of them, in terms of like finding the motivation to open up to someone or go deeper in your friendships, maybe that you haven't taken that step yet. I do want to say again, like, we want to encourage you to take the step, because of the way that your whole world can open up on the other side of that. I mean, for one, we are called to live in community. We're called to bear each other's burdens. That's scripture. Where, you know, that is like a mandate for the believer is to walk in community with each other, to take care of each other, and to comfort each other. And so that is for sure a calling on our lives as believers, but also what it really does open up for us as individuals, what it is to be known. And that it's hard to explain, when you haven't felt that yet, but it just, all I can say is it just opens up your whole world to feel like I'm known, like somebody knows me and knows like the really hard parts, maybe the ugly parts and the great parts, and still loves me. And it's another way that we get to see and experience Christ on this side of heaven. That is so powerful. So if you are one of those people that is just like, I don't know if that's for me, I just want to encourage you to take the step.
And even in, we've gotten messages from guys who are married and who have said they're asking the question, do you think I should tell my wife, we're married and she doesn't know, not that I'm acting out, but just like that I struggle with this.
Yeah.
And Jourdan and I will always lean on the side of yes. Why? Because we have seen the result of like me sharing with my now wife, and I don't know a world where you don't tell your wife and true freedom.
Yeah.
And
true intimacy between the two of you.
Intimacy. Because so much of our connection, is so much too that like, me, everything about me. If I'm struggling, I can, like we've talked about, I will talk to the guys about the specifics if I need to, but with you, I can say like, hey, I'm struggling. It's hard right now. And if you didn't know that about me, and I feel like I would feel isolated. Like, I don't know. I just feel like to step into what God has for you and your purpose, you need to know that with him, there's true freedom. Yes. But freedom comes through obedience and discipline. And some of those disciplines are actually telling people and being honest with your wife and And especially, if you haven't acted out, and there's so many varieties of ways of in the story, or so many stories, that we're reading. But if you have not acted out and it's just this mental struggle, gosh, yes, still even you, like sharing it just for the freedom that's on the other side of like what it could look like. And, you're still choosing your wife. You're still that this is part of like the normalizing for me, is that in a heterosexual full on marriage, like the guy and girl, they both are going to struggle. They're both going to struggle with like every day. They still have to choose each other.
Right.
They still have to die to their own desires. Same way with, I might be same-sex attracted and Jourdan's not, but we both are still dying to our desires. We're still choosing each other. And that's what you do. You open up, and there's a lot of freedom in opening up, and then you still choose each other, and you still fight for your marriage.
Right.
And that's how we have seen the greatest benefit. So we're always going to encourage you to open up and share the hard thing.
And I'll say
with
too,
wisdom.
Yes, with wisdom is a good word. From my perspective, and this is taking away the sexuality piece or the same-sex attraction struggle, where I have struggled in and opening up some of myself to you, even in recent years. I'm thinking about when I was about to go to a counseling intensive, and I knew that I had things to unpack and unlock and dig into.
And it was like a week long.
Yeah, it was
10
like
days.
2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks.
And I was nervous because I was going into it knowing like, yes, I know I have work to do, and I know like I want to do this, and I know I need to, but I wasn't quite sure of all the things that were going to come up, and all the ways that I was going to dig in, and I felt like my fear going in was like, what if I like fall apart and I come back and I can't like put the pieces back together, and like, what are you going to think? Like if I just come back essentially like
I would just think you're crazy.
different person, right? If I come back
Just
like
kidding,
a
guys.
different person, like, are you still going to like me? Essentially,
Mm-hmm.
I knew you would love me. But it didn't, that sounds like just an insecure kind of shallow thing, but like it was very deep for me.
Yeah.
And it was like, cause I hadn't gone to those places before. I hadn't gone like really dug in. And I was nervous about like what that would do to me and what it would do to me on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is, outside of like temptation or, those kinds of struggles. This was another kind of fear of intimacy.
Yeah.
And fear of vulnerability. But I mean, I remember how you responded to me in that you were just like, basically like, I know you, like, I think I know who you are. And you were like, I'm not afraid of that. Like, I'm not afraid of what's going to happen on the other side. And which gave me a lot of peace and confidence going in.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you came back, and that was the time when you came back, and it was hard for me to hear when you came back and said like, I had to really deal with the fact that there were things in marriage that I didn't get, and the way that my husband would desire me in certain ways, that I don't get, and you had to grieve those things. And for me, that was hard to hear, because it's
Right.
like, I felt like I was letting you down in that, but we worked through it. And I was really grateful that you went to those places in the depth to really deal with it. And then for me to know that, it actually makes me want to step up more for you.
Yeah.
So there were great things that came out of it, but it was,
But all of that to say, just more understanding for the fear of letting your spouse see the full you.
yeah.
And how we can both understand it from our own vantage points, but also we, again, just speak to the freedom that it brings, and the richness that is on the other side of that, and the depth that's possible with a mature, like a mature perspective of like, you're a human being, I'm a human being, like, and I love you, and I want to support you and encourage you, and I want to know you. I want to know how you struggle, because that helps me, that unlocks more for me and how I can support you.
Yeah.
And you have, as you have learned, or, I think that you have discerned a lot of my issues before I've been able to unpack them, but, which is annoying, but, but even when I finally
just stay silent over here until you tell
when
me.
I finally arrived at my conclusions,
oh, wow.
You've been
you really are number one type A.
Well, I definitely knew that about myself.
Oh.
But anyway, all that to say, like, just the ways that you have chosen to keep leaning in and support, and you continue to learn how you can help me and help me to feel supported and to feel like I can keep growing and digging in.
Yeah.
So,
well, our message is always going to be, we've talked about
share
the thing, vulnerable, like, all of that. It's always going to be the heartbeat of what open spaces exist for.
Yep.
And we know that is true. We've also, just even recapping last week with Brooke.
Yeah. Speaking of sharing vulnerably,
Brooke Moser was
up
on the podcast of intentional parenting, intentional fatherhood. And just, it's so good to hear his story. There's so many things about his story that I loved listening to.
Yes. And on the note of like vulnerability and what the world that opens up. I mean, when he was speaking and sharing his story, one of the things I was gleaning from it, besides just like the incredible kindness of God to like give him the mercy of being able to forgive his dad, and to be able to serve his dad, and just how brave it is to share that whole story. But the way that Brooke talks is like, you can tell he has done the hard work.
Yeah. And
so he can share that story, and you can hear that he still has joy, and that he has peace, and that even though, his life is a continued work in progress, like all of ours, he has a deep health to him that made me want to fight for that even more, just to keep growing and to keep exploring the deep places, because and now that we've gotten to know him, but I mean, that's who he is. Like, he has a very healthy, mature perspective, mindset, viewpoint of life, and the struggles of life, and their family has gone through a ton. And so, I don't know, I just respect him so much, but I also think that just the way he speaks about his hardship is like, just showcases so much, like the benefit of digging in and getting healthy.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to that one, I would say go back and listen to last week's with Brooke, called Family Secrets and Forgiveness, because it really does hit. For me, what it did is like, we hope to like, our story is same-sex attraction, and that's why we were doing this, to really shed light on that, normalize it within the church, open up doors for guys who don't have open doors to walk through right now to talk about it. But we also wanted that the broader picture for us is the vulnerability piece, living in the light. And as we do that, even with Brooke's story and his family, like, what I thought was just so powerful is just all of our families. Everyone can relate to your family having problems.
Right.
And if you can't, then I want to meet your family. Cause like, I'm like, everyone I know there's some kind of problem. There's just tension in some way, because we're human.
Exactly.
And so just in all of that humanity with his family, like watching how he, just how they've really worked through it. And he chose forgiveness, and, it's something to admire. It's like what you're saying. I admire that about him. One other thing that I want to say about that is there was a couple comments and feedback on that, we're sharing someone else's story. I just want to disclaimer on that. We would never just share someone's story without like full on. I mean, Brooke had done the work with talking to his mom, and that had been months of us discussing like, should we share that? And then him working through with his own family. Just so you know, like there's it's not like we just throw out stories, and like there is a lot of work done in order to sit down and share those. So we want to honor people well, and we definitely want to honor Brooke's family well. So that was important to us.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of other things have been happening. We should just kind of update on. I mean, we did, we did speak at the Eco conference that was here in Atlanta. And that was just such a gift to go in and share with all these church leaders and church pastors. Just this, and it was, they asked such great questions, and we did like a whole session, and then we did a whole hour-long Q&A. That was really special to us. And we just felt so much purpose in that. It felt great. And people have been reaching out to us to come to their churches and share like our story. And we are also worship leaders. Like that's our full-time jobs is like leading worship at our church at Passion here in Atlanta. And so just kind of putting nights together where we lead worship and like share our story. That's been really cool. People reaching out, asking us if we would do that. And that's an honor. So that's been super fun, to talk through. What else have we got on the table? I was just got to be on the
Beckett Cook
podcast, which for me was really cool because Beckett was somebody like that. I mean, gosh, he's been a voice in this for quite a while.
Yeah. Very respected voice.
Yeah.
In this
and
space.
His story is his testimony is incredible and all of that. So when he asked to have me on his podcast, I was very honored, but it's just, I don't know. I just am grateful that I got to do that. Like that was such a cool thing for me to get to share my story on his podcast. And just the aftermath of people like finding us and journeying with us and sending us encouraging messages has been amazing.
Just the continued stories we get to hear. It's been fun to start showcasing those on our Instagram on Fridays, our open stories kind of Fridays. We showcase stories that we've heard that anonymously. So if you want to share your story with us, people are tuning into that. And it's just, we have loved getting to share stories that don't always have like a bow at the end and show how people are in progress or in a process and help. I think they're helping people understand just a bigger picture of what people are walking through and how we're all on a journey and we're all just trying to figure it out. And so I've loved getting to do that.
Yeah. OpenSpacesPodcast.com. When you go to our website, we actually just created a tab under Connect. When you click Connect, it's a very simple way. You put your email and you write your story out to us and you hit submit, and we get those stories and then we get to read them. And Jourdan and I are reading those, and so many great. I don't know if "great's" the right word. They're moving. They're hard.
They're powerful.
They're hard stories. Like people, like we relate, we empathize with those people, and just kind of figuring out which ones that are right to share. Right. And again, we change everything from names and make it anonymous. Yeah. And then every Friday we release those on our Instagram, which has been really, really special. Yeah. And watching people feel connected to us through that. So you should do that at OpenSpacesPodcast.com, because that would be awesome to share your story there. We are about to be, we went to Nashville and recorded with Rita Springer, who is somebody who we highly admire in the worship space. She's somebody who has been like just a amazing motherly. Yeah. That's what she is in the worship. I mean, she just, in the worship world, she is just a connector. Like everyone admires her and her songwriting and her leading. But we got to go to Nashville and be on her podcast, which is called Worship is My Weapon.
That's right. And she's going to be on our podcast.
And she's going to be on our podcast coming up. So that will release, I think, like next week. That is coming out on her podcast side of things. So that was a huge honor. And we're just grateful that we're getting to step into the space. I never want to move past the fact that this was, a year ago, we stepped into this with just faith.
That's right.
We literally talk about how the night before we released this, we were pulling the trigger and we're like, we have a good life. Why would we blow it up? And it mattered enough to us to like risk blowing it up.
Right.
But
guess what? It hasn't blown up.
But guess what? when you trust God and when you have faith and when you take big steps, when he's in it and when you are seeking him and asking him to lead the way, every time in our life, we've seen it over and over. And yet here we are with Open Spaces again, watching how it is something that is it's not ours to, I feel like this is the Lord's work of like, he wants to help people if we can elevate our story and use our voice, but also then like helping others. So we continue to try to figure out what that will look like moving forward. But it's just so awesome to be a year later and see like all that God has done, that he is doing, and all that is to come. So we have a lot more coming. Yeah. We are excited about some different series coming up that we have in the making.
In the works. That's right.
Yeah.
So stay tuned and connect with us, like Jeff said, on openspacespodcast.com.
And sign up for our newsletter.
Subscribe
to our newsletter when you go to openspacespodcast.com. It's on the homepage.
That's right. We do send that out every week. So you can keep in touch. And stay tuned. A lot more coming, and we're excited about it.
Do you have anything else you want to say about my outfit before we leave everybody?
Oh, I thought we covered it.
Okay.
Did you want to talk about your shoes, or are those too
they
old?
Can't see them. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just the top. Okay, well, I guess it's it today on Open Spaces.
One more thing. I like all your necklaces. Okay, thank you guys. We'll see you next time on Open Spaces.